The concept of the magic circle is a widely seen concept in entertainment-related fields. It makes reference to that state in which the public accepts leaving behind the reality they know and they are a part of in order to enter a new reality, in which there can be new characters, spaces, stories, and rules. It's what allows us to enjoy and feel implicated in stories we are not normally part of. When we enter in the magic circle, whatever happens in that new reality gains importance for us, allowing us to go through new experiences. While the concept is seen in practically all entertainment-related fields, those fields can be very different between them. It's not the same reading a book than going to a concert, for instance, which makes the magic circle and our role in it adopt different forms as well. Video games have something that makes them different from other entertainment areas. They offer a huge variety of forms and degrees of interaction with the public that other areas by themselves can't compete with. This allows the generation of scenarios in which the role we play in the world presented by the game can be very diverse. Scenarios in which the player no longer only feels implicated in the world inside the magic circle, but takes part in it in very different ways. Video games have the capability of giving the players the feeling of having a presence, an identity, inside the magic circle in very interesting ways. The Metal Gear saga has good examples of this, like the famous battle against Psycho Mantis in Metal Gear Solid. In this video I want to focus in a certain moment of Metal Gear Solid 2 that makes reference to this subject, since it's the one I've played most recently and I think it's an interesting example. If you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 2 and plan to do so in the future, I recommend you to stop watching the video, since we'll talk about important points of the story. Metal Gear Solid 2 puts the player in control of Raiden, a Special Operations Unit Foxhound agent with the mission of rescuing the United States of America president from a terrorist force, who threatens not only with ending his life, but with provoking an environmental disaster by destroying an offshore cleaning facility. Raiden maintains contact using a transmitter with Colonel Roy Campbell, his superior, from whom he receives orders, and Rosemary, data analyst for the mission and Raiden's girlfriend. Near the beginning of the game, the player is prompted to input a name and birth date on a terminal. Remember this detail, because we'll go back to it in a while. While the story develops and Raiden sees what surrounds him change before him, in different occasions the game tries to make the player feel the same way Raiden would feel through different techniques. For instance, there's a point in the story in which it is revealed that the Colonel is actually an AI, artificial intelligence, and has never existed as a person, which also makes Rosemary's existence doubtful. Before the story arrives to this point, the game tries for the player to establish emotional links with these two characters. The player can call any of them at almost any given moment using a transmitter, and it is normal for him to do so. Calling the Colonel gives useful clues about the player's next objective, and calling Rosemary allows the player to save the game. When calling them, occasionally appear secondary conversations that develop this character's personality and their relation with Raiden, especially in Rosemary's case. So, when these characters betray Raiden, when it is discovered that they are not real, they are also betraying the link created with the player. There are details like this one scattered throughout the game, like a moment in which fake game over screens start to pop up, moment in which Raiden is confused about his situation, or the fact that Raiden tries to evade his past the player has no knowledge about until Raiden is forced to remember it. There's one of these moments in particular I would like to talk about because I found it curious. Sometime before it is revealed that the Colonel is an AI, the player begins to receive calls from him that make little sense, calls that hint the fact that the Colonel is not a real person. One of those calls says, "Raiden, turn the game console off right now. The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now. Don't worry, it's a game. It's a game just like usual." I find the message interesting because it can be interpreted as something more than a message that breaks the fourth wall, since it can also have a meaning for Raiden. Raiden is a soldier that has been trained through virtual reality exercises, and sometimes it is mentioned that this is done so that soldiers mix reality with the virtual exercises, making them more confident. So, the message can be interpreted as something that is referencing this part of Raiden. In that moment, there's a clear differentiation between the player and Raiden, but the magic circle isn't broken. The message has a coherence inside the world of the game, but also has it outside the world of the game, the world the player comes from. So, the game tries to make the player feel like Raiden throughout the game. This shows its importance in the final cutscene of the game. Since the beginning of it, Raiden has dog tags with unknown content in his inventory. It's in the last cutscene where the player sees the content of those tags, the name and birth date the player introduced at the beginning of the game. Metaphorically, the game is telling you that you have been together with Raiden since the beginning of the game, and now that you've reached the end, it is time to say goodbye, and hence Raiden gets rid of the dog tags. It's a moment of revelation in which the player is awarded a recognition and a presence as a player, as that who has been with Raiden in this adventure, going through what he's been through, and it's something I think helps make the game a memorable experience. I believe the video game media is still a young one, in which there's still a lot of experimentation and discovery left to do, and I think having a greater understanding of the magic circle can help us find new ways to innovate and perfect. I hope you found the video interesting, and until next time!